I wanted to briefly demonstrate how I would make a document to make wall labels. There's this general guidelines posted up on D2L. For a group show, you'd always want to include your name, then the title of the piece, the year, and then the medium. And generally, museums tend to bold the artist name, italicize the title. To condense space, I would suggest putting the year after the title. Although in my example down here, you can see the title goes down to like multiple lines, and then it becomes kind of lost in there. But if you want to keep the card relatively small, sometimes you have to be creative, I guess. Note that you always want to start with the largest title or the largest description of media, because you might end up with two different size cards like these two, right? I mean, obviously this one's missing the title or the author's name, which would work for a solo show, which is really what the goal is here. So you don't need to put your name on every single card. Although in most atmospheres in a museum, you of course would see that because you rarely ever have a solo show in a museum. I mean, there are people, it's our goal, right? All right, so here's just some suggested fonts and font sizes. You know, Arial's kind of boring. Helvetica's a little boring. I often like Helvetica Light, although I think that's a little hard to read on a small card. So maybe, you know, if you want to be boring, Helvetica and Arial's fine. Geneva, Verdana, Myriad Pro, all good. Keep approximately 1/2 inch around the outside, and then put in a stroke line or a box, I guess I should say, as your cut line so that you're cutting your cards consistently in size. Assuming you have big pieces, your cards will be far enough apart that if they're slightly different in size, it wouldn't matter. But someone working with an 8x10 or 11x14 size, or, you know, tightly packing works together in some way, a slight difference in size, the card's going to look really weird. So keep them, you know, the outer box consistent. It's okay to have this kind of negative space as long as some of your cards actually have text that fill in more of that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a box, a sort of outer bounding box, just using the rectangle tool. I've made a document this 8x10. It'll fit on an 8.5x11 sheet of paper. So I mean, I could start here at the 1/2 inch mark in and go in. I'm going to make it maybe 1.5 inches tall by, we'll call it 3.5 inches wide. And I may readjust that later. And I'm going to pull in a guide to 1/2 inch space. And I'll do 1/2 inch back, 1/2 inch down, and 1/2 inch up. So that, you know, we'll see if this works. Now I'll take the text tool and I'll make a text box. Trying to follow on that line, although I didn't perfectly, so I'll fix that. And I'll type in my title info. So I'm just going to pick a random name. Let's see. And actually, I'm going to use the example I have from over here because that is a really long title. And it might go down to 2 lines. Most people don't have titles that go down to 2 lines, but I'll format this kind of for that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make I'll make our whole font to start out. Let's go with Helvetica. I just want Helvetica, normal Helvetica. Why don't I see that? Helvetica regular, sure. I'm gonna make the title oblique. And I don't have my name on here, so I don't need to make it bold. All right, so that's actually a lot of wasted space going down, but about the right width. So I'll go ahead and I'll just pull my line here up 1/2 inch because that's about 1/2 inch space. And that should work quite well. I'll go ahead and I'll grab all of that together, copy and paste it. And I can pull it up to be, you know, about 1/2 inch between them. They could go closer together, but, you know, let's not make it too tight, because what you want to do when you're cutting these is It doesn't really matter if these are aligned, but what you want is a quarter inch to a half inch of space, because what you're going to do is you're going to mount this on a piece of mat board, and you're going to cut a bevel, and the bevel is going to be just inside this line, cutting off the line on the front, but it's going to bevel out towards the back. So you'll be using some of this negative space. But this should probably work. Well, I could squeeze these up a little, I suppose. Oh, I made a mistake there. I'm going to grab the whole thing. All right. So, I mean, that kind of works. I don't know. Maybe I should get it within, maybe I should get them all close together. So let's see if I can move these up. This up. All right. And then I can grab all this and I can copy it and I can paste it and move it up here. Now I've made quite wide cards. And I want to make sure to have a little space in between them. So assuming that my printer can handle this, I think I'll just move these all out a little. Because that, I've got if I've got an 8.5 inch wide paper and my document's only 8, quarter inch in here and a quarter inch over there is probably gonna be fine. All right, so now what I can do is, I can fit 10 pieces in one document. I can go back in here and I can just, change the title, change the year. My medium stays the same, maybe yours changes, but I can go ahead and edit them all. And then I can save it out as a PDF and, send it to a printer. Just to make sure we all know how to do that. File, export, Adobe PDF for printing, give it a name, make it a name that makes sense, your name in it somewhere, because for one of the times that we're looking at these, I want you to actually show the document, and it makes more sense to show a PDF document than having to open up Illustrator. Depending on your computer, you might not be able to do Zoom and Adobe Illustrator or InDesign at the same time. And I just want to add in that, if you don't need that width, maybe your pieces are, a couple of, if they're all only this skinny, then definitely, pull in a guide here. That's, it's almost 2.5. So maybe I call it 3 inches and pull down. Well, I guess it's not measuring from here, but you get the idea, So then before you copy and paste, just make them all smaller if all the text will fit. Always start with your longest title info card. And some people prefer your title to be on your year to be on another line, and that's fine too. In this case, we're pretty close to a 1/2 inch. It probably isn't going to need to be pulled down, but if it did, then go ahead and adjust that. And the other thing I didn't do was I didn't adjust our actual font size. So 12 point, 12 point might be a little small. I kind of prefer 14 point. So if I put in 14 point, now I definitely am a little tight here, right? All right, if I'm looking at it, I'm at 3/8 of an inch instead of a 1/2 an inch. And you don't want to have more space on the top and the other sides and less on this one. So I would readjust the bottom of that. And it doesn't have to be every 1/2 inch. It could be every, it doesn't have to be any number, as long as it's consistent is the idea. You definitely don't want to have this font larger and this font smaller and this box skinnier and this box wider. So just, pick one format to do consistently.